Today we are going to be reviewing solving equations. Last week we covered some solving equations, but I want to make sure that we understand how to work out all types of equations. So on the topic, we're going to work with solving equations, emphasizing two-step equations today, also working with fractions. And then at the end I threw in some multi-step equations that built on what we covered last week with combining like terms. So this is page number 4 of Unit A, which should already be on your note sheet. So you need to fill in the topic and today's date, and then we'll get started. So you'll notice on your note sheet today that I have organized it by two-step equations with multiplication, followed by two-step equations with division, and equations with fractions on the back, followed by multi-step equations with combining like terms. So I've tried to organize it so that if you're stuck on a particular type of equation, that you can easily find that equation and see how we solved it today. So the first equation says -10 minus 4x equals 2. So we need to first identify which piece of our equation are we trying to get by itself. We know the goal of solving an equation is to isolate the variable, so we need to isolate this portion of the equation first. So we can't do anything with this -4 yet. We have to first get rid of that -10. So in order to get rid of this -10, we are going to add 10 to both sides. So making sure that what you do to one side, you do to the other side. So once we have added 10 to both sides, that's going to remove that -10 from that side of the equation. And so we just need to write what we have left. And in this case, we have a -4x. And I highlighted this on purpose so that we could see that we're not just left with 4x, we're left with that -4x, and remembering that that sign comes down. Equals, and 2 plus 10 gives us 12. So now our goal is to get x by itself, so we need to undo the operation that's taking place here. And in this case, we have our coefficient of -4 being multiplied by our x, so we have to undo that multiplication, and so to undo that we are going to divide both sides. And whenever you're dividing or multiplying or what have you, you're trying to undo what's right here, so in this case we're going to divide by that coefficient, which is -4. So if this coefficient was a +4, then we would be dividing by a +4, but since our coefficient is negative, we're dividing by a negative. So then we're only left with our x on the left side of our equation, and 12 divided by -4 gives us -3. Remember, you can always check to see if you're correct by plugging the value that you got for your variable. So in this case, -3, we can plug that back into our equation and make sure that it works. Let's try another one. So we have 2x minus -3 equals -5. So this came up a few times last week, that when you have this minus negative, that this minus sign is referring to the opposite. And if you have 2x and the opposite of -3, well, the opposite of -3 would be a +3. So this is the same as 2x, and the opposite of -3 would give us a +3. And so now we're actually working with a multiplication equation with addition, as opposed to the way this looks here with subtraction. So if our goal is to get the variable by itself, we are going to be isolating this 2x. So our first step is to undo this addition of 3. So we are going to subtract 3 and subtract 3 from the other side. So we are left with 2x equals -5 minus 3. So we have same signs here, so we're going to combine those together. That would give us 8. And we're combining negative, so that would give us a -8. So 2x equals -8. So to undo our multiplication here of 2 and x, we are going to divide by 2. So x would equal -4. Let's try a couple more. So if we have -12 equals 2y plus -8, we are trying to isolate the 2y. So that's what we're trying to get by itself. And so we need to get rid of this plus a -8, or this -8. So how do we undo a -8? Well, we would add 8 to both sides. So -12 plus 8 would give us -4. And that has been removed, so now we're just left with the 2y. We're still trying to isolate our variable, so we need to undo that multiplication of 2. So we are going to divide by 2. So our y would equal -4 divided by 2 is -2. Let's try one more of these. So if we have 7 plus 8x equals 23, we are trying to isolate the 8x. So we are needing to get rid of the 7. And so we have to also keep in mind of what sign this 7 is. So if it doesn't say that it's negative, then that means that it's a positive 7. So to undo this 7 here, we would actually need to subtract 7 from both sides. So the 7s would eliminate, so we would be left with a positive 8x is equal to 23 minus 7 would give us 16. We need to undo this multiplication, so we're going to divide by 8. So x would be 2. So now we're going to be working on two-step equations with division. So we're going to see that there's some division taking place. So I'm going to follow the same steps and highlight what I'm trying to isolate first. So in this case, I'm trying to isolate this positive m divided by 3. So the first thing that I need to undo is this -5 here. So in order to undo -5, I'm going to add 5 and add 5. So then I'm left with m divided by 3 is equal to 0 plus 5 is 5. So now I'm looking for my inverse operation. So if m is divided by 3, then I need to do the opposite of division, and I need to multiply by 3. And so I'm going to multiply by 3 over here. So that is going to cancel out that division of 3. So then I am left with m equals 5 times 3 is 15. Similar to what we talked about before, when we have this minus negative, it is helpful. Sometimes people get in the habit of writing a big plus sign or rewriting the equation. So we would have 6 equals d divided by 7 plus 2. So we need to undo this addition of 2, so we're going to subtract 2. 6 minus 2 is 4. So we're left with d divided by 7. So to undo this division of 7, I'm going to multiply by 7 and multiply by 7 on the other side. So d equals 28. This next one is quite a bit different. So we can see that here we just had a variable divided by a value, But on this next problem, we have more than just the variable. So we have x plus 9 divided by 2. So when you see a problem like this, you are going to have to undo the division first. So in this case, we are going to undo that division of -2 by multiplying by -2. And you'll see that what happens is that is going to cancel out the -2, and we can see that we're left with the x plus 9. So x plus 9 equals 3 times -2 is -6. And now we just have a typical one-step equation. So x plus 9, so we need to get rid of that addition of 9. So we're going to subtract 9 and subtract 9. So x equals -6 minus 9 is -15. One more of these. So -7 equals y divided by -3 plus -1. So going back to where we just have a variable divided by a value, so the first step is to get rid of this -1. So to undo that -1, we would add 1. That looks like a 7. Let me erase. So I'm going to add 1 and add 1. So -7 plus 1 is -6. Equals y divided by -3. And so I'm going to undo this division of -3 by multiplying by -3 and multiply by -3. -3 times a -6 would give us a positive 18 equals y, or y equals 18. Okay, let's look at some equations with fractions. So we can see that we have a fraction next to a variable. So our fraction is essentially our coefficient or multiplied by our variable. So we actually have to undo that fraction to get rid of it. So whenever we're trying to get rid of a fraction, we need to multiply by the reciprocal. And so when we multiply by the reciprocal, that means that we are just flipping the numerator and the denominator. So in this case, I'm going to multiply by -5 over 6. And I'm going to do the same thing to the other side of the equation. And so I just want to talk through why this works. So if you were to multiply -5 times -6, that would give you a positive 30. Divided by 6 times 5 would also be positive 30. So if you have 30 divided by 30, that would just leave you with 1, which is why that works. It cancels out, so you're left with 1k, or just k. And here, if we have 12, this is the same as 12 times -5 divided by 6. So don't let those fractions throw you off. Break it up. 12 times -5 divided by 6. So 12 times -5 is -60. And then we're going to divide by 6. So k equals -10. And you could also plug that in your calculator, but I don't want those fractions to throw you off to the point that you don't think that you can do them, because I have enough confidence to trust that you can work through that multiplication and division. Let's look at another one. So if we have 2/3 m equals 10, we are going to multiply by the reciprocal again. So we're going to multiply by 3/2 and multiply by 3/2 on this side. 3 times 2 is 6, divided by 2 times 3, which is 6, so that's going to cancel, so we're left with m. And then we're going to have 10 times 3, whoops, divided by 2. 10 times 3 is 30 divided by 2, so m is going to equal 15. So hopefully that helps you understand a little bit better about how to work with fractions. Now we're going to try some multi-step equations with combining like terms. Okay, now we are going to work with some multi-step equations involving combining like terms. So if we have negative x minus 33 plus 4x equals 9, if we have some like terms that are on the same side of the equal sign, then that means that we can combine them. So in this case, we have a negative x and a positive 4x that we can combine because they are on the same side of the equal sign. Keeping in mind that we can't combine negative 33 and 9 because they're not on the same side of the equal sign. So if we have negative x and a positive 4x, that would give us 3x minus 33 is equal to 9. So we have a minus 33 here that we need to undo, so we're going to add 33. And we would have 3x equals 9 plus 33 is 42. And then last step is to divide by 3. So x equals 14. Let's look at another one. 27 equals 2x minus 6x minus 41. So same idea. We have to first combine like terms if we can. And so in this case, we have the positive 2x and a negative 6x, which are on the same side of the equation that we can combine. So we can combine those first, and then we'll solve. So we would have 27 equals 2x minus 6x is negative 4x minus 41. So we are going to add 41 to both sides. Which would be 68 equals, and don't forget that that's a negative 4x. So we are going to divide by negative 4 and divide by negative 4. So x would equal 68 divided by negative 4 is negative 17. Okay, this involves some positive plus negatives or some double signs in there. So when we're working this out, we have 2m and we also have a minus 6m on the same side. So I'm just going to group those together. Oops. Minus 10 and plus a negative 11 is the same thing as minus 11. So I'm just going to drop that double sign. So 2m minus 6m is negative 4m. Negative 10 minus 11 is negative 21, or minus 21, equals 31. So we're going to add 21 to both sides. So negative 4m equals so negative 4m equals 52. So we would divide by negative 4. So m would equal negative 13. All right, last one. So negative 28 equals 2f plus 12 minus negative 23 minus negative 5f. So we have some of these double negatives in here that we need to make sure that we simplify. So we would have negative 28 equals, oops, (2f), and then my minus negative 5f I'm going to change to a positive 5f. So remember the opposite of negative. And then I have a positive 12. And this minus negative 23 is going to change to a plus 23. So then I can combine my like terms. So if I have negative 28 equals 2f plus 5f would give us 7f. And a positive 12 and a positive 23 would give us 35. So we would subtract 35 from both sides. So we would have negative 63 equals 7f, and divide by 7. So f would equal negative 9. So we are going to continue working with multi-step equations involving combining like terms and also throwing in some distributive property and also variables on both sides of the equation. So this is just to kind of get our feet wet with some of those skills that are a little bit more complex and making sure that we have the foundational skills of solving two-step equations and working with fractions before we dive into these trickier problems at times. Good job today. I hope you have good, accurate notes. Make sure you rewind or pause the video at any time if you need to complete your accurate notes.